So, welcome everybody. Welcome to the 4-part series on manifestation. And the reason why it's 4 parts is this whole topic of manifestation is quite complicated, actually, when you look at it from not only your emotional system. Abraham Hicks, I really love their work, and they've done a lot of work around looking at manifestation in terms of your emotional system, and what you emotionally feel supports manifestation. And yet I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's also about your brain and body systems. It's also about how you run your subtle energy system and your true self versus your false self. So I wanted to make sure I broke it into smaller chunks so I didn't overwhelm you with too much information. And manifestation for me is more than just creating what you want and, wanting a boat or wanting a house. It's about a spiritual path, I believe. It's about finding access to this more quantum world where energy and consciousness can create reality. Not to get too heavy on you too quick, but it's a really deep and profound pathway as you develop the skills to create meaning and joy in your life too. So let's explore a little more. I do take a different take on manifestation than many other manifestation programs, so I want you to be open as a Zen bowl. So what we'll cover in the 4 parts is we'll talk about why we fail to manifest. It's important to not feel victimized if you cannot manifest something. And so I spend a lot of time helping you understand, how are you running your brain, your body, your energy system, your consciousness in a way that it didn't create this thing from happening? And how you can then, once you know what you did to not create it, you can then shift to create it. And today I'll do an overview of the consciousness system of manifestation that I teach. Part 2, it's about how do you rewire your brain and body systems for manifestation. Part 3 is more about the biology of the wound and trauma, and what does trauma have as a negative or positive impact on manifestation. And then the last part was one of my favorite parts. It's about the subtle energy and the quantum physics of manifestation. So I'm looking forward to taking this 4-part journey with you. Let's get started. Let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Carolyn Eberly, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. So I've done all the studying and work to actually be a licensed therapist. So I bring that world to it. But I'm also was a teacher at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, which is a 4-year subtle energy healing school. I've studied Reiki, healing touch. I've also studied a lot about the brain science and how our brain and body systems work together. And trauma work, somatic, body-centered trauma work. So I bring in and bridge the worlds of subtle energy, clinical psychology, meditation. My first meditation class was when I was 14 years old. I started meditating back in Ohio. And I've been on Earth almost 6 decades, so I've been around a while. And yeah, I've learned a lot just through life and experience. I'm an author and a consciousness nerd. I run my own year-long, which I'd love to tell you more about if you're interested. Give me a shout out. Year-long certification training in mind, energy, body transformation, an integrative coaching program. So let's get into the meat of things. So one of the students in my year-long program drew this picture of me. She said she knew when she was drawing it, she knew she was drawing it for her teacher, and it was of her teacher as a child, but she hadn't yet met me. So when she started the class, she brought in this amazing picture that kind of emphasizes what I teach and emphasizes a lot of the core foundations of what it means to manifest. So if you see that picture of the little girl in the dark, It's hard to manifest from the dark, but see that light of her true essence coming in on the side? That's what we're going to be talking about in terms of manifestation. And just to give you a motivational upbeat, life is so magical. And here's an example of why it's magical. Here's a picture of me as a kid. So she hadn't met me, she hadn't known me, yet she drew my picture. And as you awaken to this magical world we live in, everything comes possible, everything becomes probable as you learn these skills that I'll be teaching in these 4 webinars. So what's my definition of manifestation? It's 2 things, really. Attracting to you your highest good, be it a job, abundance, or relationship. But it's also so much more. And I think the trick with manifesting, the catch-22 around manifesting is, how do you deal with life when things don't go your way? When you don't get what you want, when it doesn't show up, you don't get that ego and serotonin high when things don't show up for you. So part of manifesting for me, and my definition, is feeling whole, centered, and happy, especially when your heart's desire is aching to receive something that hasn't shown up yet. You are what you want to become is kind of signifies what I'm talking about here. As you discover who you really are in the world, then ironically, you're happy whether you manifested what you want. But as you learn, I call it self-regulation skills back to that bigger you can then also manifest better. Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. So the reason you want every single thing you want is because you think you will feel really good when you get there. But if you don't feel really good on your way on the path there, then you can't get there. Again, the catch-22 from the Hicks. You have to be satisfied with what it is while you're, and I wouldn't say reaching for more, while you're opening and aligning, and we'll talk more about this, especially in the 4th part of the series, while you're aligning to manifest more. So 3 reasons why we fail to manifest. One of the most important things I find in life is not being a victim. And for me to not be a victim, if I've wanted to create something and it hasn't shown up, then I want to know how I regulated my mind, my body, my sense of self, my energy system that kind of got in my own way. So one of the reasons why we don't manifest is our sense of self really does create our reality. The vibration that you self-identify as, if it doesn't match the vibration of what you're trying to create and manifest, it won't show up. And we do devote pretty much the whole 4 parts to how do you change your vibration to match what you want. Not only your vibration, your biological wiring of your brain and body system to match what you want. Sometimes we don't get what we want because the timing is off. And sometimes it's simply not in our highest good. Not all of us have the destiny to be a rock star. And then I want to talk a little bit about the role of grace. Sometimes grace just comes in and saves the day. And I don't think we can control when grace comes in, but we can at least, be open to letting it and seeing when it does come in and taking advantage of it when grace comes in. Because life is an illusion. So do you ever wonder how to awaken from it? So what do I mean by life is an illusion? My daughter's name is Maya. Maya is the name for illusion. That what we think we see, there's so much more. We don't really see it. And if you're trying to manifest something, there could be a clear pathway that goes straight to it. But unless you are vibrating at the consciousness to actually see that pathway, you're going to miss it. I make a joke. I say the me of today is embarrassed about who I was 5 years ago because she didn't get a clue. She didn't see the pathway as well as I do now. But the me of 5 years from now looks back upon the me of today and is like, oh, she doesn't get a clue either. So as you raise your consciousness, as you awaken to the essence of who you really are, you see life in a different perspective, and you see more clearly, and you see the path to where you're going more clearly. Because everything is made out of particles of energy, and these particles can transform those lower vibrations to higher vibrations of consciousness for direct, clear, conscious creation. And again, we'll talk more about this in the other parts. Like that picture of me as a kid that my student made before she met me, and then seeing the picture there, that is a really magical world that we live in. But you have to at least be open to that quantum reality, the possibilities that are there. And so in this training, we're going to give you some skills, those superpower abilities to, as Eckhart Tolle says, move the formless to form. Because that's what manifestation is. It's opening to form, dissolving it, and reconfiguring it back to the form of who you really are and what you really want to manifest. So this is from the Matrix. Sometimes I think about manifestation in terms of that movie, The Matrix, and the grid and how they change things. Because you really can change and alter your reality. And a lot of it depends on how you perceive negative emotions and the reality around you. How you feel your painful emotions, hopelessness, loneliness, determines if you will heal them. From a clinical standpoint of psychology, they like to say feeling is healing. And I like to say not all feeling is healing. There's really specific skills on how to feel in order to heal. And we'll talk more about that later. So I think about it in terms of a power struggle. If you have enough connection to what I call HVC, high vibrational consciousness, and I'll show you a video that explains more of this in a little bit. High vibrational consciousness is a link to your bigger essence, your true, some people call it the higher self. I don't like thinking of it as higher than I, because I'd like to invite you to self-identify as that, and then connect to the lower vibrational consciousness, the sadness, the hate, the fear, the insecurity, to transform it and heal your human. Or as I like to say, be kind to your human.com, self-identify as the joy and the wholeness, and then send love, healing, and support to your human that is feeling sadness or fear or lack of abundance. Yeah. So here's kind of a picture of a scale. You want to have enough high vibrational consciousness in order to transform the low vibrational consciousness, because who you think we are and who we are two different things. So that glowing essence in the picture of who you are, his job is to heal the thoughts and the negativity of the human, get the lessons, or as I like to say, pain, emotional pain is the portal back to wholeness. And from wholeness, we transform. And from wholeness, we not only transform, we manifest. And I thought that picture of the big horse and the little one is a good symbol of what I'm talking about. Because from the energetic perspective, looking at that, that's the core being vortex. The vortex of your bigger self is 1.5 inches above the belly button. Again, you'll learn how to access it in part 4. It's to manifest from that essence, because if you manifest from your wholeness, you'll get a higher vibrational reality. Whereas if you manifest from the wound and your trauma and your pain, you'll get a lower vibrational reality. And we'll talk more about that in 2 and 3. So this is, you know, animation of what I think is the incarnation process. We all have this higher frequency, but as we get closer to Earth, our frequency gets more dense. Yet in the system that I teach, you learn to access those higher frequencies of manifestation and wisdom and wholeness in the physical form here on Earth. And that's really what I'm talking about. And here's a video that kind of explains it. So let's imagine your consciousness and high vibrational consciousness is this white paint. And then life happens and some black paint, metaphorical, your boyfriend breaks up with you, you lose your job, you get divorced, you get cancer maybe, illness, something bad happens. Yet if you have enough high vibrational consciousness, enough that deep anchor to your true self, you will just transform that negative event into wholeness, and you'll be able to manifest from that higher frequency. But if the opposite happens, if you become the black paint, the challenge, the metaphorical, really awful thing in your life, the black paint, then you're not going to manifest the things you want because your vibration's just too low, because your sense of self is linked to the false self and the ego. And you won't create the life you really want. You won't create, I have this awesome healing center, and I had to really align my consciousness to be able to manifest this healing center in Boulder, Colorado. It was a foreclosure. Otherwise, I couldn't have afforded it. So there are ways we can show up for ourselves and not be the black paint. And the impossible can become possible. So this diagram talks a little bit about when we fully manifest more instantaneously, we've transformed the belief system and rewired a brain and body system to fully transform the consciousness, the energy, the negative emotions in our way. And that's the sunshine on the third circle. And yet it can take some time. And so I want to encourage you that as you're looking at manifesting something, if it doesn't show up right away, doesn't mean that it's not going to. And I am going to support you in this 4-part series to explore how are you getting in your own way and how you can stop getting in your own way. So let's just summarize what I've talked about. So this is part 1 takeaway, and I've got some videos after this that kind of demonstrate it at a deeper level. But basically, your sense of self needs to match what you want to manifest, that vibration. For instance, some people are great at manifesting money and manifesting in a defensive way. For instance, think about my father. He was able to manifest a lot of money, but he did it through bullying and defense. Because he accessed the ability to manifest money, but not to really have healthy relationships with his son and daughter, he didn't access the part of who he was to be a good enough dad. So his kids kind of moved away from him because he couldn't manifest the relationship part. So maybe you're good at manifesting relationship, but not money. So you have to look at how do you change your vibration to manifest abundance too. Some of us are good at manifesting money, but not relationship. So it's looking at who you are and how does your false self and defensive system get in the way of creating a more whole, balanced essence. They have a joke with CEOs, heads of corporations being great at manifesting money and running business. And they do it from a more defensive, reactive way versus a spiritual awakening way. Yet so many of them are alcoholics and high divorce rate, unhealthy family. So when you think about manifesting, think about how do you balance who you are in the world with what you want to manifest. Another takeaway is understanding how emotions and the false self really do create manifestations, either lower vibrational consciousness of manifestations or high vibrational consciousness. So we're constantly manifesting. If we manifest a job loss, that's still us manifesting. If we manifest a divorce, that's still us manifesting. There's ways we can learn from the things that we manifest that we think are negative that actually create the spiritual awakening and the lessons we need to learn to embody more of our bigger self into this human form. Another point for manifestation is that you really do need to understand how to rewire the brain and body systems. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next part 2. And then the last big thing about manifestation that I want to invite you to be curious about is that if you don't get what you want, doesn't mean that it's not coming. Margaret Thatcher, she was Prime Minister of Britain. She was told many, many times she was not supposed to be Prime Minister and that she was not a good politician. And if she had listened to the naysayers around her about, about not being good at politics and not being good at winning elections, she would have quit long time ago. So don't listen to the naysayers in your life. Find supportive people to be around you for you to manifest. Okay, now I want to show you a fun video of, this is a picture, it's going to be a video of my cat Gus, and I just got a puppy. I just manifested this puppy, and Gus is filled with love. Like a lot of spiritual people, we are filled with love, but we're not always good at manifesting certain things like abundance because sometimes we're just too kind. We don't bring in this strong essence and this deeper ability to stand up for ourselves. So this is an example of Gus not manifesting a great relationship with the puppy. The puppy kind of pushes Gus's boundaries, take advantage of Gus.
Be good. Be good.
And there's me trying to help out, but still the puppy is kind of being really obnoxious and bad against Gus. No matter what help I give Gus, the puppy just kind of chases Gus all over. Whereas this is a video of my older cat, Sydney, who we call her the power cat because she's really good at transforming anger to power and being in her bigger self. And there they are kissing, and there's no obnoxious behavior. So I guess what I mean from this is how you run your energy in the world attracts to you the lessons you need to learn. And that can then, if you learn those lessons, can lead you to manifestation. Here's my black lab puppy, and she's taking on the role of mom. So she's letting the puppy, take over her until the puppy pushes it a little, and at the very end, you'll see her set a boundary. And there she is setting a boundary with a puppy to stop at the end. So where do you need to set boundaries in your life? How you're regulating your energy and your brain and consciousness in the world to not create what you want or to create lessons that you haven't yet learned from. So whether it's a lesson that you need to learn or whether your manifestation comes right away, that's diagnostic of your skill set. And it's also diagnostic of how are you balancing your energy in relationship to the outside world. So in the next video and the next part of the training, we're going to talk more about what does that mean in terms of rewiring your brain. So you're more like Sydney, the cat, that can resonate at the frequency of healthy manifestation. I don't want you to lose the loving kindness that you have in your life, like that Gus, my first cat, showed. He's just comes up and loves you, but he's not good at having his own back. So part of manifestation is how can you rewire your brain and body system to have your own back and show up in the world more at that vibration that Sydney was living. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. Looking forward to teaching you more in part 2. Blessings. Aho.